in what is the National Archives of Guyana. This is the function of the National Archives of Guyana, and this building is dedicated to our greatest historian, the late assassinated Walter Radhay. There are other historians, but he is first amongst all of them. Now, I have been associated with the National Archives long before I was a member of the organization that I am representing here today, the Indian Action Committee. The Indian Action Committee was started in April 2003. But I was associated with the National Archives of Guyana almost 2 or 3 days after my return from Canada, after having spent 19 years there in early February 1996. At that time, the National Archives was split. Some of it was in the museum building, and the rest of it was obliquely opposite to the Tower Hotel, directly opposite to the Ministry of Culture, in very poor surroundings with lots of rats and cockroaches, etc. And we're very lucky that we have this building here today and the one behind, so we can preserve our records. I must pay tribute to the person who allowed me to delve into the records, actually 2 people. The late Miss Gwen Paris, who was the GRO, she was at the head of the registry, Miss Gwen Paris, AA, and Mr. Rodriguez, Ivor Rodriguez, who is now migrated. And they allowed me, especially in the early 96, between the GRO and the archives, to go in every single day for about 4 months and do research. At the beginning, I was totally ignorant of my ancestors. I had some bits and pieces. But by the time I was finished in 1996, I had traced every single ancestor to the level of 32. Your parents are 2, your grandparents are 4, your great-grandparents are 8, great-great are 16, great-great-great are 32. I found every single one. 32 from India and 1 from Scotland. And all of that I did in the National Archives, well, with some help from the GRO. So this building is very important for those of you who wish to study your history, especially those of Indo-Guyanese origin. The records are here. In the beginning, a few records were missing, but they are now all here due to work of people like Dr. Yisu Persaud, who managed to bring the records of the very earliest 2 ships, the Whitby and the Hesperus, which arrived in 1838. Now, the archives has been of great help to many historians, including myself. I'm not a historian, actually. I'm a professor of geology at the University of Guyana, but history is my hobby. So I think during those 21 years since I came back here, I have now reached the level of professor of Indo-Guyanese history, because I've done the most research of anyone over those last 21 years. Everyone can tell you the work that I've done here. Now, one of the things I was able to do here to resolve one of the big questions is how many people came on the Whitby and the Hesperus. All the history books, or most of the history books, will tell you 396. A few of them will say 406. Neither number is correct, because you will find in the records here, the National Archives, the number is 423, right here. You don't have to go to Britain. You don't have to go to India. You can stay right here in Georgetown, sitting in the Walter Radhay building, and solve these types of historical problems. And Ms. Budram was saying earlier, problems with women, shortage of women. You'll find that when the Whitby and the Hesperus came, The Whitby came first, arrived on the morning of the 5th of May 1838 of the Berbice River. Later on in the evening, the Hesperus came into the Demerara River. They sailed with a combined total of 440 persons, 17 of whom died on the Kalapani. So 423 arrived here. So what is this 396 number that the historians keep repeating over and over and over? You'll find that of the 423 who landed here alive, 6 were Anglo-Indian interpreters to be distributed to the 6 estates where these 423 people were distributed. In Berbice, at Highbury, on the east bank of the Berbice River, at Waterloo, on the west coast of Berbice, 3 estates on the west bank of Demerara, Vredenhoop, Bellevue, Vredestein, and Regina in Essequibo. So all 3 counties did get allocations. And of those 423, I said there were 6 estates, there were 6 Anglo-Indian interpreters. There were also 21 children. So if you add up 6 and 21, you get 27. And when you minus that from 423, you get 396. The 396 number represents those adults who came here as indentured laborers. But 396 is just a subset of the total of 423. And this can be found right here in the National Archives of Guyana. Of those 423, there were 13 married couples that came. So that accounted for 13 of the 14 women that came on the 2 vessels. Therefore, there was only 1 unmarried woman that came on the Whitby and the Hesperus. And when you check, if you look at the amount of males, of 396 males, indentured minus 14 is 382, and you add the 6 male Anglo-Indian interpreters, you have 388. Then you minus 13 for those who are married males. You have 375 adult males for 1 adult female for 5 years. You don't expect these 375 males to remain celibate for 5 years. Therefore, we had the problem, again, which has been partially resolved here at the National Archives. Who were the first Douglas? Who were the first Douglas? And in the census of 1841, which you can find right here in the National Archives of Guyana, you'll find mention of mixed Indian and African children in the 1841 census. So immediately you see that the 375 males, many of them were not celibate for 5 years. Then another problem was the amount of Indians that arrived here in the year 1868. In several of the books, there's one number, 2,528. In another book by the famous historian, Dr. Hugh Tinker, the number is 2,520. Well, it can't be 2 numbers. It got to be one of the 2. But when the research was done, it was neither. Again, the research was done right here in the National Archives of Guyana. The number of Indians that arrived here in 1868, the calendar year, 2,534. Again, a problem resolved here in the National Archives. Very recently, another problem that was resolved, and Ms. Budram would have seen me going through the books. At the end of September, there was a commemoration for the Devonshire Castle martyrs in Essequibo, the first set of Indian indentured laborers that were shot down by the British. 5 were killed, and 8 or 9 others injured. And for years and years and years, in Essequibo on the coast, at the village of Devonshire Castle, the day was commemorated on the 29th of September. However, research done here in the National Archives showed conclusively that these persons were killed on the 30th of September, 1872, not the 29th. So hopefully this year is the last year that the wrong date will be commemorated. And again, it is said that there were 5 people who were killed, but the National Archives is showing that probably more were killed instead of 5. So this is a problem we have to resolve this year before the commemoration comes around back next year. And of the 5 who were killed, there was one reported to be Maqsid Ali. But in the record show, there was no Maqsid Ali. There was Maqsood Ali. So the name was spelled incorrectly. Then another one reported to have been killed at Devonshire Castle was Baldeo. But the record showed that it was Badal, not Baldeo. And thirdly, which is, it could be shocking, another one reported killed of the 5 at Devonshire Castle is Kalika, which is a Hindu name. But really, when you check the records, it's Kala Khan, who's a Muslim. So this kind of history, wrong history, has to be corrected and done right here in the National Archives of Guyana. The Rose Hall Estate martyrs, again, problems with the age of some of those who were killed, of the 15 who were killed in 1913 at the Rose Hall Estate by the British again. 2 of the names were given wrong ages. Nibar, who was the grandfather of Dr. Fred Sukdeo, was listed as being 72 years old. He was not. He was 42. So that was corrected here at the National Archives. Now, some unresolved problems that will be resolved here at the National Archives in years to come. The total number of Indians that arrived, how many came here? There are about 6 or 7 numbers that are there in the historical literature. Of course, it could only be 1. So this is something that has to be done. Again, we've heard from